Recording and share my screen. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about fashion categories, or the categories that the fashion industry has kind of created to help sell goods and have it make sense to consumers, and also increase their profitability essentially. And some of these some of these categories I think are a bit out of date, and probably need to be re-looked at, considering how old some of them are. And so that's something to think about as we talk about them, as to how relevant they are, I guess. So we're going to be looking at sizing, price point, and the function, and how the categories are created by function. So first, let's look. First of all, in the fashion industry, there's three main brackets. There's menswear, women's wear, and children's wear, essentially. And that pretty much makes up the top of the umbrella or the chart. And so from those three, women's wear, menswear, and children's wear, then it breaks down into these different categories. So we're going to look at sizing first. Menswear really hasn't changed at all. It's very honest. Menswear is based on basically measurements. There is no vanity sizing in menswear. It's based on their waist measurement and their length. So your pants are a 32 by 30 or a 32 by 34. And that's the same. It doesn't matter if you're buying them at Zara or if you're buying Dolce & Gabbana. It's just a measurement. And so it's a very honest size. And there's no vanity sizing at all. So, men's waist size is out there. You walk into a store and they're a 32 or a 36 or a 38 or whatever, but that's what it is. Women's wear breaks down into different categories. And if you can see these women here, you can see a junior, a woman, and a miss. So in women's wear, we have juniors. Juniors is really meant for tweens and teenagers. So girls that have outgrown the children's department, but they are not women yet. They're in that in-between phase, junior high, late junior high, high school. And then the styling is going to be more with it. It's not going to be as sweet as children's wear, and it's not going to be as mature as women's wear. It's a bit more fun. So that the junior sizing doesn't build for curves. It's small hips, small bust, and no waist definition. So it's very straight up and down, is how a junior's body is perceived by junior sizing. The sizes are 0 to 15. They're odd, like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. I actually really thought about juniors because I don't believe junior sizing is used anymore. When I was in high school, juniors sizing existed. Like I was a size 5. But my daughter, who's a senior in high school, she doesn't own anything that is an odd size. She shops at Urban Outfitters or Topshop, and it's all even sizes. So she does wear junior styling, but I don't believe junior sizing is much of a thing anymore, except in the lowest bracket of fashion, which is closeout, and maybe some mass market, like maybe Forever 21. But it's kind of, I think the junior size, like if you go to BP and Nordstrom, which is their juniors department, there's no odd sizes there. It's even sizing. So I think this junior size bracket is kind of disappearing. A size 0 in a traditional junior is smaller than a woman's size 0. And if you guys think about it, in many of those junior styling stores, they have what's called a 00, which would be a junior 0. So then your next category is misses. And Misses is your biggest category. It really makes up for most of women's wear. It's made for the average size woman from about a 5'4" to the tallest at maybe a 5'8", 5'9" at the most. It makes room for hips, bust, and a defined waist. It's based on an hourglass figure. So it Misses in the fashion industry has decided that a developed woman is shaped like an hourglass, and it's designed for that shape. This is where zero was first introduced into Misses. And a double zero is really for juniors, because junior sizing is now following Misses sizing, and Misses is the evens, 2 to 16. The biggest size in Misses is a 16, and they've now introduced the zero, which is because I think juniors are shopping in the Misses sizes, so they had to have a smaller size for them. A lot of brands, most of the brands you guys can think of are Misses. Most of the designer brands, most of the mall brands, those are all Misses. A lot of them don't even go to a 16. They might stop at a Misses size 12 or go up to a 14. Very few actually do offer 16s. And then your other bracket is women's, which was originally made for women that are tall, bigger structure, and bigger people than your average. So they might be over 5'9". They are a big structure. Their bust is a little lower. They don't have as much waist definition. Some people would say, you could call it plus size. It's normally the sizing is still the evens, but it's accompanied with a W. So if you're shopping in, say, like Nordstrom, you'll know you're in the women's department because it might say like 6W, which means it's bigger than the Misses size 6. So the grading between a Misses and a women's, they make room in the armholes, the length, the sleeves, the waist, and the bust. And so that size 6 is not the same. It's different because they're making it for a bigger person. Just like a junior, like a 6 at Urban Outfitters is probably truly a junior sizing. It's not the same as a 6 at J. Crew. It's smaller. Women's starts at a size 12. So where Misses kind of starts to lean away, women's begins. It starts at a size 12 and it goes all the way to a 3 extra large or even bigger. And then our last bracket in women's is petites. And petites is built for women that it's not about being thin, it's that they have a very small stature. So they are, the sleeves and the hem are smaller. And petites is generally, it's a petite size because it'll have a P. So it'll be like a 4P. So that means that your sleeves and your hem are going to be shorter than the Misses size 4 because it's made for someone 5'3" and short and under 5'3" and under. So if you look at the American sizing, a lot of it is based on the height. So a junior is based on the fact that she's not developed yet. She's in between childhood and womanhood. A Misses is that she's what America says is an average woman, the American fashion industry, 5'4" to about 5'8" in her stature. Women's is going to be bigger, whether she's bigger around or she's bigger in height, but it's really giving you the room for height. And then petite says she's 5'3" and under. So she's a small person. She might not be thin because it's not making allowances for how thin you are. It's making allowances for your height and your stature. So shorter sleeves, shorter length. And then children's is sized by their age. So like baby is 0 to 6 based on they are 0 to 6 months old. So children's is all based on age. And as they grow, they move up in the ages. So if they're 5, they should be wearing a size 5. Obviously, once you get into junior wear, you outgrow that, or you get into women's wear, you're not wearing based on your age anymore. But that's how children's is sized. Do you guys have any questions about sizing?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna look at the price points. And right, the chart I have up for you is the English price point breakdown. So it's kind of the European point of view, and then we'll kind of compare it to the American point of view. And the one thing I want you guys to see first off are those arrows. One is the trickle down from the top down to the bottom. Inspiration is coming from the couture and the luxury lines, and it's trickling down into the high street and the economy brands, which would be like Zara, H&M, Forever 21. When they send their designers to those shows and they copy the runway, that's trickling down the triangle. The other way is the pyramid is the bubbling up, which is the counterculture styling going up the pyramid, which means it's coming from below to influence luxury and haute couture. And we saw that with punk, grunge, hippie, all of those countercultures we studied in the beginning. So fashion inspiration is built as a pyramid, and the inspiration is coming from the top down and from the bottom up. It's doing both, just like we learned in the beginning, fashion versus counterculture. That's always what's happening here. Okay, so if we look at the very, very top of the pyramid, it's haute couture. As we know, basically Louis is responsible for haute couture. The word haute couture really means handmade dresses. And so haute couture is for it to be haute couture, it has to be handmade by seamstresses in workshops in Paris. So needle and thread type handmade. For a garment to be considered haute couture, it must meet the requirements of the French Ministry of Industry. So there's requirements, and the French Ministry of Industry will decide whether this garment meets those standards exactly the way Louis set up his standards, his standards of when he was king, as to what this French fashion was going to be. It's exactly the same. The pieces are made by hand, one at a time, and cannot be replicated. So there cannot be more than one. There's not two, there's not three. If I ordered a gown from Chanel, she can't make that same gown for somebody else for it to remain haute couture. For a piece to be haute couture, it has to be made in France. It cannot be made anywhere else. It has to be made completely by hand in workshops in Paris. It must meet the requirements of the French Ministry of Industry. And there's only a handful of houses that are approved to make haute couture gowns. They are Chanel, Dior, Givenchy, and Gaultier, and that's it. There's 4. Those are the only fashion houses that are considered to be able to make haute couture or have it be haute couture. The entry price point, so the very least they're going to charge for a haute couture gown is $20,000, and it obviously goes up from there. So you kind of have to ask yourself, who are these customers, right? The customer of haute couture, there's not very many, is royalty, nobility, and at the turn of the 20th century, the American billionaires. And the American billionaires still are customers of haute couture. So basically, they pull from royalty, nobility, and American billionaires. That is no different from Louis' day. Remember, haute couture, when he established haute couture, it was for him to jumpstart his economy and to control his nobles. So nobility was still the only customer of haute couture. He exported the French fashion to other royal houses and other nobility, other courts, but the customer base was always meant to be royal and noble. And it was never, so it always had that price point and that exclusion to it. It was never meant to dress anybody else. America, with our rags to riches kind of puts him in an awkward spot, but the American billionaires definitely can afford haute couture. And so basically haute couture is completely, if you want to understand Louis's fashion world, haute couture has preserved it to a T. It functions the exact same way it did when he started that economic stimulus package. The next level there is the level, first of all, just one more thing, haute couture doesn't exist in America. Why? Because it has to be made in France and it has to be done by a French person. So haute couture, we don't have that level in our fashion pyramid in America. So the next level that we kind of know or think of as the highest end is the luxury fashion level, which is really where ready to wear starts. It's the highest level to ready to wear. It's the high-end design brands that belong to the conglomerates such as LVMH and Kering, which we learned about at the very beginning of the semester. Garments are not handmade. They are produced by machine in factories. They could be produced in country or they could be produced out of country, but they're not a thread and a needle. They are made on a machine, but they are not mass produced. So that luxury level, they are made on a machine and they are produced, but they are not mass produced. They're made in very limited quantities, and they have very tight control over their quality, so that there stays an elitism with that level of luxury fashion. The price is really priced for elitism. It's really that aspiring, if you think about when Louis offered that in a spot aspirational customer, when he allowed the bourgeois to buy certain outfits to come to Versailles on Sundays, that's this level. That luxury fashion level is really the aspirational level to haute couture. For most people, this is the top level. They're never going to go on to haute couture, but it's priced that way. It's priced to be very, very elitist. The design house, for some design houses at this level that we can name are like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Burberry, Prada, Chanel's ready to wear, Valentino's ready to wear. All of those super high end is Dolce & Gabbana. That's this level. The largest consumer for the luxury fashion level are emerging capitalist economies. For example, right now, China is the biggest purchaser of the luxury fashion level because they have the most money flowing through their new money flowing through their economy. And it's a way to be aspirational to old money. They also draw from very high earners with high disposable income, trust fund babies, very high earners. So you're talking about celebrities, athletes, stock people on Wall Street, tycoons, that kind of a thing. 76% of the market for the luxury fashion level are between the ages of 35 to 60. So their target market is that early middle age. And then once you hit like 60, they must just be over it. They've accumulated their stuff and they have nothing to prove to people. The next level then is your bridge brands. And bridge is the gap between luxury and high street, which we'll talk about what high street is, but it's just a bridge. It bridges the lower end to the highest end. Prices are aspirational because a bridge brand customer doesn't want to spend luxury price point, or they can't. It's either they don't want to or they can't. So there's an aspirationalness to the bridge consumer. They are most concerned with the quality of the product, and they want the luxury level design. So they want the product to be very, very high quality with luxury design at a palatable price. So they don't want elite pricing like the luxury level. They're not willing to pay just for elitism, but they want the quality. Some brands that fall into a bridge category would be like Tory Burch or Kate Spade. Their customer base is really the upper middle class. They are professionals, lawyers, doctors, stockbrokers. Quality is absolutely essential to them, and they are very careful consumers. They've earned their money. They are not trust fund babies. They have worked hard, they've earned their money, and they're going to spend it wisely, and they're going to spend it on quality goods. They're very conscientious consumers. Next is on the British triangle is the diffusion lines. This is not a category in America, but I thought it was interesting because it's based on American fashion. Diffusion lines are the lines of luxury fashion that have now introduced entry-level price point to gain more customers. Examples would be DKNY, Ralph Lauren Polo. So they're designers that have collections in luxury, but they have offered lower end lines to have a bigger customer base. And so in Europe's point of view, those are diffusion lines. They're diffusing the brand. Basically, the idea would be that that brand is creating an aspirational customer. So if you buy if you can afford Ralph Lauren Polo, the idea is eventually that's an entry level. So eventually you'll want to buy Ralph Lauren, the runway line, which would be luxury. This is a very price point driven aspirational customer. So this is not the bridge customer, because the bridge customer is not concerned about name brands. They're concerned about quality. The diffusion customer is an aspirational customer. They are seeking labels. So they're going to buy Ralph Lauren Polo with the hopes that one day they can afford Ralph Lauren. Do you guys see the difference there? Kind of. And then your next level is high street. In England, it's called high street. In America, it's called the moderate price point. And this is a really interesting price point. It's really had a hold on, it's really been important to 20th century fashion, both in Europe and in America. It kind of came about at the turn of the century. Middle-class women were primarily at home caring for children, and as ready to wear launched, they became fashion consumers. And so department stores really opened for them, for middle-class women who were at home raising their children and who were becoming consumers. And a department store was brilliant for this for this woman, because all the items she would want to buy were put under one roof. She didn't have to go to the millinery, to the jeweler, to the cobbler, to the dressmaker, to all these different things that the luxury fashion or the aristocrat ladies did. It was all put under one roof in departments in one store for middle-class women to come during the day and shop, basically ready to wear items. And so the high street or the moderate price point is mass produced, high quality, very functional design at affordable prices. And this is exactly what that middle class woman wanted. She wanted very high quality goods at prices that she could afford, with good design, function design. The clothes worked, they weren't hard to wear. She could do all her chores that day in them. And the fabrication was of quality. She could wash them, she could wear them, and they would last. So one thing that's really important about high street fashion is that it's long lasting. These women were investing in clothes that were not based on impressing your neighbor, but they were functional, they were high quality, and they would last a long time. Consumers of this bracket tend to be men and women over 40, because they've kind of done all of the fashion stuff and now they just want stuff that works and lasts. They are very conscientious consumers. They want well-made, but they are very affected by the economy. So the bridge customer is not as affected by the economy because they're a higher echelon earner, but the high street customer is. What's sad about the high street or the moderate price point is that it is dying. It's dying in both Europe and America, and it's losing to fast fashion, which is not quality. It's only trend driven. So that quality, good price, good function bracket of high street or moderate is actually losing in the fashion industry. And then the last bracket on the European side is the economy brands, which they put them all together: fast fashion, mass market, closeout. It's all giant category economy. This is very price driven. This is bulk manufacturing. This is trend only. Do not worry about function or fabrication or design. This is throwaway fashion, basically. So when we compare to the American price points, the American I put from bottom to top because in America, the bottom has the highest volume. So in America, we break up that economy into off-price and closeout and budget. We break that into two categories. Off-price closeout is like your TJ Maxx, your Costco, your Ross. Those are all old goods that are either made to go straight to closeout or they really are closeout. And then budget is going to be your mass market or your economy. Those are going to be your H&M, Forever 21, Old Navy. This tier is only based on volume. It has no relationship to quality. It doesn't care what fabrication it's using. It is absolutely trend driven and it does not last. It is what we call throwaway fashion or fast fashion because it's a one-time wear and it's based on price point. The cheaper, the better. These are, if you remember in True Cost or in the last week's global supply chain, these brands tend to get in trouble a lot for slave labor, sweatshops, unethical practices because their whole purpose is trend and getting it as cheap as possible. Their consumer is a non-conscientious consumer. They only want trend. And if you remember the English, the trickle down effect, it's coming down from luxury fashion to the budget. So you're going all the way from luxury to budget in one fair swoop. The moderate is the high street. A breakdown that we have that Europe does not have is what we call better, which is really career wear. And America was built on working, whereas the European industry is not. The European industry works from the top down, just like, haute couture down, and the haute couture and the luxury brand consumers do not work. So working is not as important in the fashion price points as it is in America. In America, the fashion really comes from the bottom up. And as you climb it going up, you get people that are more executive. And so the working becomes less and less. But better is right in the middle of that pyramid. And that is career wear. And that's going to be like J. Crew, Brooks Brothers, those kinds of brands, Anthropologie. Contemporary is an American bracket, does not exist in Europe. It is not price point driven, it's style driven, and it's age driven. So contemporary is less about price point and it's more about trend and fashion, but it's not cheap like budget. They do have quality to them. Women and men in their 80s and in their 20s and 30s that are good earners really fall into this contemporary bracket. The price point can be all over the place. It can be very expensive and it can be not expensive like Urban Outfitters. And so it is a category that's kind of truly American because it crosses price points, but it's really concerned with fashion for that young, yuppie, early professional. Examples would be Free People, Olivia or Alice and Olivia. Sorry, I put Alive, but it's Alice. Ted Baker. Some of Ted Baker's menswear might fall into this category, not all, but like I said, the price points can be all over the place. And then Bridge, designer and couture, follow the same category as in Europe. Couture does not exist in America because, like we said, it's only French. That quote at the top, I really, really liked, because design students always get confused between luxury and couture. If it hangs on a rack, it's not couture. And so really in America, our highest price point is designer, or that luxury, or what they call luxury on the English pyramid. We call it designer. That's really the highest price point that exists in America, and it does hang on a rack. So American fashion industry is all based on ready to wear. Do you guys have any questions about price point before I move on to the department categories? No? Okay. So price point is probably the biggest breakdown in fashion, but when department stores opened and all these products started coming under one roof, they had to create these departments or categories so that people would know why they need to buy that particular item. So traditional fashion categories are evening wear, which you would be wearing to dinner or to a function, day wear, your career wear, sports wear, active wear, swim, and the newly bracketed athleisure. Some of these categories are very old. They're really embedded in the European aristocratic luxury lifestyle. Evening wear it really is out of date. I mean, very few people wear ball gowns and change for dinner and wear white tie and coattails, but that would be your traditional evening wear or tuxes. So it's very out of date. Day wear in America is kind of out of date. In Europe, it's really has to do with that dress that you wear from when you get up to before you change for dinner. Career wear is very American. That's an American department, and that's traditionally what would be accepted to wear to work, whether you're a man or a woman. It's kind of that uniform of that suit, white shirt, loafers for you're a woman. J. Crew hits career wear on the dot, or Brooks Brothers shirts, women's suits, skirts, sheath dresses. Sportswear is the category I really want to talk about. Sportswear to me is really, really interesting, because when sportswear first formed prior to the turn of the century, it really was made for wearing to do your sports. So it really was, for example, this lady, she's golfing, that's sportswear, that's the golf outfit. Or the guys at the top who are going English aristocrats that are hunting, those are proper hunting outfits, and that would have been considered sportswear. And when you think about the Edwardian fashion at the time, it was so stiff and corseted and hard to move in that sportswear was an idea that these are certain outfits that you wear to do this particular activity. Sportswear is really, the term sportswear is really is an American term. It's usually meant to describe separates. For example, you can see all the categories here. Everyone is wearing separates in some form. But starting in the 1930s in America, it really became to describe a more relaxed, more comfortable, more laid back sort of styling. So it kind of started to gravitate away from being particular to a sporting activity and actually more of like a way of life or like a lifestyle. And in the 30s, you really started to see American sportswear transcend itself into evening, where you could wear a more comfortable dress to evening, or maybe you wouldn't even change for dinner anymore because your day dress was now acceptable to wear through, whether it's to the museum in the day, to dinner at night, which would be unheard of in Europe. And so sportswear really became to define a wide array of occasions. It was starting to move away from being particular to sports, like you see the English aristocrats at the top, and really more for a more relaxed American lifestyle. American sportswear is homegrown. It is essentially an American look. And that really starts to make a difference in the 1930s moving forward. It really fit with American life. It's easy to keep clean. It was made from easy to wash, easy to manage fabrics, comfortable, easy to wear. The silhouettes are looser. They're not as constricting. And really what really defined it in America was you could dress yourself. You did not need a lady's maid or a valet to dress you, which sets it apart from the luxury fashion in Europe. So really you start to see the egalitarian or the American mindset of no nobility, because we were devising this fashion, whole new fashion category, sportswear, that was starting to be an all day. You did not need a lady's maid to dress yourself. You did not need a valet to dress yourself. It took you from work to evening, no problem. It was comfortable, it was relaxed, it was easy to wash, and it was easy to maintain. You could maintain yourself. It really fit the fast-paced life of America. The idea that everyone works, even if you were a housewife, you needed clothes that functioned with your duties there. So it's sort of really, in America, whether you were a billionaire or not, you didn't sit around and just wait for the next meal like the aristocrats of Europe. And so this sportswear category really accentuated the American way of life. It really started essentially as coordinates for interchanging blouses, skirts, pants, vests, sweaters. But by the 20s, it was really a bigger category, just sportswear was known to be comfortable, relevant, and easy to maintain. Prior to 1920, sportswear was what we would think of as activewear, like you see the aristocrats there. It was really uniforms for sporting. After 1920, it really began to symbolize a way of life. And in America, it really was the American way of life. And you see our teenage boy there in the 60s, and he's showing off his easy to wear sweater, holding his football. That's really saying that sweater through merchandising, through marketing, is sporty, easy to wear. You can wear it playing with your buddies. You can wear it to school. It's very versatile. Sportswear became to be seen as versatile. You didn't need to change with every little thing you were going to do throughout the day. 1946 to 1970, Dior's new look launched in Europe, in Paris. It was in complete contrast to what was going on in American fashion with this idea of a sportswear and this relaxed, easy to wear. Dior, if you think about the classic, the black jacket and the big white skirt, it's very, very fitted. It's very structured. It's very conforming. You know, you can't do a lot in it. You're pretty, you look like a doll, but you're not going to be able to do a lot of activities in it. So it really, although it was beautiful in magazines, it did not fit the American way of life, but sportswear did. And so really between that 1946 and 1970, that high-end luxury European perspective was losing ground in America to American sportswear. Europe's fussy fashions versus, basically it became Europe's fussy fashions versus Americans' relaxed and comfortable sportswear. And looking around, whether you're traveling in Paris or New York or Hong Kong or London or LA or San Francisco or Athens, Greece, it doesn't matter. You can clearly tell that the American sportswear lifestyle point of view won, absolutely hands down. Even Europeans wear American sportswear on an everyday basis. And so activewear, this category is basically comfortable, relaxed, designed for sports and exercise. That is what it's meant for. So if you think of basketball shorts, running shorts, jerseys, that's activewear. It is absolutely meant for that sport and that exercise. And it's not meant to be worn outside of those things. And it should be comfortable. Nike, Adidas, Those are all brands that make and really are known for their activewear. They sort of dominate those markets. Athleisure, people get them mixed up, but they are different. Athleisure is our new category, and it's comfortable and relaxed, but it's designed for exercise and day wear. So it's meant to take you from the gym to the grocery store. It is perfect for travel and walking. An example, obviously, of athleisure is Lululemon. You see people in Lululemon all over the place. You don't actually know if they ever went to yoga, but if you saw someone in their basketball outfit sweating, you know they were playing basketball. So that's kind of the difference between activewear and athleisure. Athleisure sort of toys with the idea of, I'm thinking about the exercise. I'm not sure if I'll ever make it there, but I can definitely wear this very comfortable leggings all day long. Athleisure really has been born out of compromise between, it's really lies at the intersection between athletic wear, which is what you wear on the basketball court or the tennis court, to sportswear, which is no longer used to play sports. It's now everyday fashion, example, polo shirts and jeans. And so athleisure sort of has come about because there was something missing between modern day sportswear, which is really just comfortable lifestyle clothing, and actual clothing that you wear at the gym. And so these are your departments formed by a department store. These are kind of when you create a line and you're going to go to market, they're going to ask you which of these you fall into. And most of the brands really in America fall into sportswear, because sportswear is really about a easy to wear, comfortable lifestyle that goes from morning coffee to dinner at the theater. It's no longer associated with sports. That's now activewear and athleisure. Do you guys have any questions about that? Does that make sense? Okay. So in the world of the internet, the way we shop is kind of changing, because we don't shop in departments online anymore. So like Nordstrom, and this example here is Nordstrom's, who is a department store. And when you go to their department store, they are broken up into these categories. But online, you don't shop by career wear or sportswear. You shop by item. For example, I pulled this right off their website: dresses, rompers, pants, t-shirts, sweaters, swim. And so basically you shop by item online, and then you'll find within that category, it'll break down into price point, how much you want to spend on swim. Do you want to buy a $500 designer swimsuit? Or do you want to buy a mid-tier swimsuit from J. Crew for $120? Or do you want to buy a mass market swimsuit from one of their private label lines for $45? And so it breaks down there. Nordstrom's has little shops where it'll be like career shop, which then they're trying to replicate an in-store experience with career wear, or a swim shop where maybe that would feel like shopping in the swim department. But really, if you look on all the different brands online, they're all breaking it down based on item rather than why you would need to buy that particular outfit. For example, evening wear is has less spot on a website than, say, dresses, or it might say evening gowns. So really now online has introduced this idea of shopping by item, which is sort of brand new for fashion. And fashion hasn't really caught up to it in the industry. Obviously, retailers are, because they have to sell these goods, but the industry and how the industry functions has not caught up to this. So basically, we don't shop for why we need to wear something, which was the department. We need to wear it for work or the gym or dinner in the theater. That would be the why. Now we shop for what we need to, and generally we will shop by price point. So when you shop, it doesn't matter where you're going to shop, it'll ask you how much do you kind of want to spend, and you can do, you know, just like when you buy a plane ticket. And so really what's become vital to shop to these categories in fashion is the what you're buying and how much are you willing to spend on that item. And so that's what takes you back to the price point pyramid, because you as a consumer will probably always fall in one of those brackets because you have a comfort level of what you like to spend, why you like to spend it, and where your value lies with those products. All right, so does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, so for the assignment for this week, I put in a list of a whole bunch of different brands from different price points and different places on the price point pyramid. And you'll pick 3, and you're going to sort of give a synopsis of where they fall in the world of fashion. So I did an example for you, and I used Kate Spade, but you would need to, basically, you're going to tell me who their customer is. You're going to tell me what their price point bracket is. So to do that, you'll have, for example, like Kate Spade falls within bridge. So I would say to you, her dresses start at $198. Their entry price point, the lowest end dress at Kate Spade is $198. And the most expensive is $650. So her span goes from $198 to $650. She falls within bridge. She's bridging the moderate consumer to the luxury consumer, because a Kate Spade customer probably isn't going to spend more than that bridge bracket, but she does like the design of a luxury brand. So that's why she doesn't buy moderate, because she wants that higher design. But she's very concerned about quality. She's very concerned about silhouettes, and she's very concerned about ethical practices. So she'll pay as long as those things are playing a part. And then you need to tell me what the sizing is. For example, Kate Spade is 0 to a size 14. They don't go to a 16. They stop at a 14. They're Mrs. sizes. They don't offer plus, and they don't offer junior. They used to have a little junior line called Weekend, but it didn't do well, so they don't have it. That would have been a diffusion because it was lower end. And I'm trying to think of the last. See, you do the sizing, you do the price point. Oh, and then the bracket that Kate Spade is falling into, she would be sportswear and career wear and day wear. So she makes everyday lifestyle. She makes dresses and coordinates for professional women to wear to work. And then she makes easy to throw on day dresses that are less dressy than her sportswear. So she would be day wear, career wear, and sportswear. She used to make swim and activewear, but it must not have done well because they don't make it anymore. So if the brand that you chose has stopped making a category, don't mention it, because that means they weren't successful with it. So you don't muddle the waters. You only want to talk about what they are actually selling and making to date. We want relevant information. And I mean, the brands span from the ones I listed that you can choose from, they're, you know, Brandy Melville all the way to like Burberry and everything in between. I don't remember if you have to choose 3 or 4, but it's somewhere between there. And then you can follow my example on Kate Spade to kind of know what to do. And then what you'll want to do is, let's say you choose Brandy Melville, for example, who is one size fits all, which is so ridiculous. You would decide if she's juniors, and then her one size fits all, you're going to have to tell me if you even think that's relevant and is it possible to have a one size fits all. So really, what size girl is Brandy Melville truly selling to, and who is it that they're truly who is their customer? So you would have to sort of decide that, for example, if you were to choose that brand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? I know it's a ton of information, and if our class was not the short semester, I would spend more time on this, but you will, the price points, the sizing, like the sizing, you'll go way more in depth in pattern making. The price point will continually be something you'll talk about. We do it again when you guys come through collections. So I'm just giving you a big overview of it so that you have some grasp to understand how the fashion industry really breaks itself down and why there's these brackets that there are. Matt, do you have a question?
Yes, I was gonna ask you if G-Star was one of the brands that you listed.
D-Star?
G-Star is in goat G-Star.
No.
They're probably like high street. That's probably the bracket I would assume they're under, but I was wondering if I could do them.
Yeah, just will you send me an email so I make a note that you're picking a brand outside of what I offered?
Yeah, I can do that.
Because then I'll need to do a little bit of research on it just so I know something about it.
Okay.
Yeah, just shoot me an email so I'll remember that.
Thank you.
But yeah, if you guys have a brand that you're dying to do, you just need to tell me ahead of time so that I can know something about the brand before I read your synopsis. I just tried to pick big ones that are going to be easy to find information on. And by the way, throughout the whole program, you will study different brands because that's kind of how that's the best way to really understand the industry is by looking at the brands that either exist today or have come before us. So that's why we do a lot of that. Anything else? So just remember that the global supply assignment is due Sunday. And then this new one on fashion categories is due Tuesday night. So those kind of are a little bit back-to-back-ish. Sorry about that. But if you guys don't have any other questions, I will post the lecture as soon as it's downloaded. And then if you guys need to review these slides, you totally can. And you might want to go back and look at the counterculture lecture at the very beginning when I went through the big luxury brands and those conglomerates, because that lists all those brands in that conglomerate to go back to what the European luxury bracket looks like today. All right. So you guys, if you don't have any other questions, have a really great week. And again, just always email me with anything you guys need. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, have a great week.
Bye.